Welcome to the SWBL podcast presented by 1356 Public House. And tonight, my guest is the reigning champion captain of the SWBL Yankees, Scott Pohle. Hey, buddy, how you been, man?
What's up, Benware? Thanks for having me. Things
Yeah,
have been going well.
good. It's been a bit since I've had you on a podcast. I think since we did the champions kind of review after the season. So, kind of catch me up. Has it really sunk in? Has it, now that we're getting closer to season 21, like how you feeling being the reigning champ again, I should say.
Yeah, it feels better than not being a reigning champ.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So yeah, things have been going good. It has sunk in and it's kind of passed by now.
Yes.
So yeah, we're looking forward to this next year. So
Awesome. Well, as usual, guys, we're going to talk the roster. We're going to talk schedule, division, some predictions, some just pretty much everything that you've been hearing on the captain's interviews. So let's just jump into it since we're already looking at season 21. Real quick, we will kind of bounce back season 20. Obviously, you guys won the championship, went 8-2, had a great season. You know, now that it's, we're a little further away. I know we touched on a bunch of moments. But just if you could wrap up or sum up last season in like one sentence, what would you kind of call it?
from our perspective,
Yeah, from your perspective.
I would say we had a lot of fun.
Good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah we that was probably one of my more fun years playing wiffle ball. So
That's good. I mean, you guys, obviously, three of you are very involved in the league, and I know Kevin, we talked about it. He wanted to be able to focus more just on not just necessarily his game, but also just being with the guys, being with the team,
yeah,
enjoying the moment, and not being spread thin. Yourself, you're on the front office. Gus is obviously on the front office. Wearing a lot of hats throughout the week, and it can make it hard to fully enjoy every moment. And so it's good to hear that, that would be the way you described last season and then cap it off with the championship. So
yeah, I think, let's be clear, Sam does most of the heavy lifting, compared to anybody else in the league. I would say probably like the person who usually does maybe the second most historically, maybe not last year, is Kevin. I think that like definitely flies under the radar because it looks different,
yeah.
and so I think anybody that does like graphics or like as real time as we were trying to put those out, I think ultimately Sam did a lot of the heavy lifting. Taking stats or making decisions doesn't really like
It's not a
uh
whole lot that goes into it.
doesn't cost you a lot,
Yeah.
So kudos to Sam and all the hard work he put in for season 20 and anybody else who helped out. But yeah, I think Kevin took a step back last year, and I think he really enjoyed that. I think he wants to spend time hanging out with friends and, as he would put it, rather spend time with friends and enjoy the weekend than like try to get the right picture, try to upload it, try to do the graphic, put the score correct, and then, oh, by the way, you're up to bat. So I think he always felt like really rushed and like
Yeah.
not really able to like, enjoy it and be like as full present to the weekend, especially in his playing. So
Yeah. Well, I think it helped. Kevin had his best season ever. I think statistically. Now I haven't looked back at some of the early stuff, but
yeah, his probably best year ever was when he was still playing at Clemson, and this was before, gosh, maybe I think it was maybe his first summer. This was right before the franchise
okay.
era. Uh and he came back. He was huge, like he was just jacked,
Yeah.
and he was the sub that people played with. So I feel like I've heard it mentioned a couple times. Kevin was like the cheat code sub that year.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, hot button topic, random, but like the whole like longest home run record, I
Yeah.
feel like is the most controversial baloney stat that we have in the whole
Hmm.
league, because I've never seen anybody measure. I've never seen anybody hit those actual home runs. And I would argue that there's people that have hit longer ones than any single one of those out there. So hot take. There you go.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's me. It's definitely not me. Let's just
Yeah.
make that clear. But
Okay.
I've just seen people hit home runs that are probably longer than what's on there.
Yeah.
But
Well,
nobody measures, you know. That's such a
yeah,
random thing.
it
Like,
is a random thing. I always thought because the record was set before I think I ever came into the league.
yeah,
And so I assumed it had been measured, but
I
you
think
played forever, so
that term is loose. And I'm not trying to stir the pot tonight, but I would argue that between everybody in the past 10 years, there's been one person that's hit a longer home run than whatever is on that sheet. And I would argue also Kevin was hitting longer home runs when he was huge and
yeah.
the cheat code sub that summer. But
Anyway, well, he had a great year. Sam had a really nice year, really great year for him. And obviously Gus was just a monster. It was
yeah,
like he was made in a video game for wiffle ball last year. Um, you know, all of that to say, and you had a good year. Was I think people are saying it's a down year for you, but a down year for you is probably some people's best year career wise. So it's, I mean, it all worked out. You ended up having all four players in the top 21, the lowest one being Sam at 13. So all top 15 players. Gus coming in at 1, yourself at 10, your brother right behind you at 11. Um, so with the success, with everything, are you concerned, or maybe a better way to say is like, how do you shield the team from a drop off? Like, how do you continue to encourage them to improve and in what they're doing? I mean, Kevin's been on a trajectory that's been pointing up for a few years now. Um, so hopefully that continues, but um, everybody thinks Gus has got to come down a little bit from last year. It's almost really hard. It would be really hard to sustain those kind of numbers. So I'm just curious, like, are you kind of preparing for that at all? Are you trying to figure out, like, I don't know, you're not going to switch up the lineup or anything like that, I don't think, but what are your thoughts there?
yeah. I mean, I think ultimately, like, you can't really like put pressure on yourself for what you did last year, and I don't think we're even thinking about it. To be honest with you, I think ultimately, like, I think we all just had a lot of fun last year, and I think that the stats probably shows that, you know,
Mhm.
and you just trust every single one of those guys out there, and I probably haven't thought really that much about that, to be honest. Like, I don't really think I'm not trying to scapegoat the question. I don't know if it really matters that much, you know?
Yeah.
I think ultimately, like, we'll play our first game, and I think that's against you guys. And we just hope to win the next game and have
Oh,
fun.
son of a bitch. I didn't
And
even know that.
yeah.
Crap.
And
Okay.
so I think, like, for us, it's just winning the next game. I know like the stats. Everybody looks at stats. Or anyone who says they don't look at stats looks at stats. Everybody wants to have a good year, but at the end of the day, what at least I think everybody does, but maybe there's only a few people want to do is win the championship.
Mhm.
And I don't care how bad of a year I had last year, or I think Sam, Gus, Kevin would say the same thing. I don't care how bad of a years we have, but if we are in position to make a run in the playoffs and if we find ourselves in a championship game, then that's kind of all that matters, you
Yeah.
know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the right mentality to have. And you're right. I can't say that's true for everybody in the league, but um, I I think there are people who that is the sole focus. Yeah, stats are important, but they come secondary to making a push for the championship.
because I would say, I mean, if you ask Gus, like, I think Gus, you know, it's been a long time since he won a championship. And I think he would say, if he was sitting here next to me, that, like, that probably meant more, was more fun than winning his third or 10th or 20th MVP award
Yeah, yeah.
or
I think
batting
Sam would say the
batting
same thing.
700. Yeah, like
Well,
batting
Pete,
700 for the 10th time in a row. Like,
yeah, you got guys like Sam and Pete. Sam hasn't won it in a long time. Pete,
yeah,
I don't think has ever won it.
Oh,
You've got franchises that, have never won it, and players who've never even been in the playoffs.
yeah,
So yeah, I think there's a fire, and I think that's good for the league because eventually, like, I think that's what's creating this competitiveness that seems to continue to build every year.
yeah,
We'll get into some of the divisions and the tiers and all of that. I think there's still a pretty known line from the top echelon teams to the rest of the teams,
hmm
but I do think it's not as much of a foregone conclusion every year.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you never know. I mean, we'll talk about it in the schedule, but you just never know what could happen. And I mean, I remember one year when actually, I think it was the year the Expos won. Like our season, there was like one play, like Brian Kenny robbing a walk-off home run. Like there's just like moments of that can happen.
mhm.
Any turn and getting a win in this league is hard, and um, so you just kind of take it day by day and game by game, and it's only for a weekend, so it's not like you have like a rest week or a couple weeks and then you play again. Like you kind of have to figure it out,
Yeah,
and that's why you also like you shouldn't take so much stock in like your weekend stats. Like you just have try to have fun, even if
yeah,
you're not doing too hot. So
yeah, yeah. All right, last question on season 20. And I just wanted to bring this up because it was a bit of a different approach than most teams take. The pitching rotation and the way you guys utilized Gus
mhm.
with him having such a season. And you were great as well on the mound, but he was just, I mean, he won Cy Wiffle. He was amazing.
Right.
And you guys maximized his time. I mean, I can't remember how many games he actually pitched in, but it was most
I
eight,
think yeah, it was 8.
8 games where, most
Started
people,
8 games.
yeah, most people like you're maxing out your ace pitcher at 6,
Mhm.
maybe 7 with like a spot inning here or there,
Yeah.
depending on the way it goes. But with the pitching innings limit, a lot of times you're basically slating 5 or 6 games for that guy and having a second guy do the rest. So talk to me about how that idea came about, and um like, was it in the moment that you decided that? Was it something you kind of went into the season with?
Yeah, I think so the answer is no. Like we didn't I mean, I would love to be like we came up with this masterful plan, but like to be honest, like the I would say the positives about having like only 4 guys on your team, like everybody knows that like you play a role, and if you get cold you just have to figure that out, and you just trust. I think when we talked on the champions podcast, like you just kind of have to figure it out and trust that like, hey, this is normal, you're going to go through a slump and we're going to pick you up, and what we saw with Gus is because I started the first game and then Gus pitched, and it's just the benefit of getting hot and having games where we were able to run away in the third and fourth, or fourth and fifth.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, we were just like, let's just try to save as many innings as we can. And we were just lucky enough that we could do that.
Yeah.
And uh, so, yeah, then it just became like, hey, let's just eliminate some of the guesswork, keep it simple. It's working. That's okay. And when Sam pitched, I think we said also in the Champions podcast, like when Sam pitched, we at that point we're just like, well, we're in the playoffs, like let's just have fun for the rest of the day. Luckily, we won that game because some shuffling happened, after that game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we just took it kind of game by game, and we're just like, do you want to do this? Do you want me? Okay, all right, good, cool, done. And that's where I think some of the like we've all been in the league for a really long time, even though Kevin necessarily hasn't played in the league maybe a long time. I don't remember how long he's played, but that's where it kind of like the longevity of just like having a lot of like experience of just like you can make decisions pretty simply and quickly, and it also doesn't help. It also doesn't hurt that you have, you know, it's Gus and
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, if if the Marlins hadn't had the season they did, surprising people, being as successful as they were, um, I think there would have been a strong argument for you to win manager of the year with that decision alone. The fact, again, maximizing your best pitcher, using the situations, because like you said, you were doing it in the moment, right? So you're still making decisions,
Mm,
even if they're easy for you. You're still
yeah.
deciding in the moment based on the scenario and this and the circumstances. He has X amount of innings left, so I can still use him. So
Mm,
I think, something that I think people shouldn't overlook was the fact of that. And you still had, like you said, you had only 4 players. You saw it as a benefit, but most people going into last year were like, I don't know, everybody's kind of going with this depth idea. Um, and that works for some teams. It doesn't work for other teams, but
yeah.
yeah. So kudos to
Yeah.
you is my point.
Yeah. I think we did get a lot of flack for only having 4 players, but I think it worked out.
Yeah,
So.
I think it worked out pretty well. So, all right, well, let's look at some more season 21 stuff. Let's look at the division here. You're in the Ketting Eye Center division. Um, it's you, the Marlins, and then the Expos, who were also in your division last year. So when the draw came out, just tell me your thoughts. Were you happy with it? What are you kind of thinking with this division?
Yeah, I think we were happy with it. I think it's funny. I was trying to remember. I think have been in the Expos division for a long time. Like we're just like long time partners in our division. Like so I actually like chuckled at that and I was like, oh, it's like our they're almost like our brethren, you know? Like
Yeah.
uh so but yeah, I think we're excited to have the Marlins in. That's like a family affair
Hmm.
and with Luke and then my cousin Corey.
Yeah.
So I think for us, like we couldn't really be happier. I think it's going to be fun to have the sibling and cousin rivalry and just being able to joke and have fun. Like I think the games that I enjoy the most are the ones where you know that like even if there is like a hot button like thing that would happen that would potentially be quote unquote something that you would argue, there's relational equity there that's just not going to get overheated and you can move on and keep playing, have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think hopefully that doesn't happen too often. We usually have one instance a year, but
Yeah, there's
ideally
usually a couple a day.
yeah.
Depends on the heat, depends on alcohol consumption. It depends on what someone said something to someone at some point and they kept it and held it in. It's all bullcrap. So,
Yeah, and personalities. There are
oh
certain personalities in the league that
yeah,
it's just their competitive spirit comes out a little too much
yeah.
sometimes. But well, looking at that, and you kind of mentioned the Expos, and I'm just curious, do you have a favorite team that you like to play against?
Hmm. No, I mean, I think I'll go back to just like the teams that I know, like the Twins or the Orioles, like the um those are probably like the ones that stick out right now. Just because like they have like a different level of feel even in the regular season. Um but any game where it can just stay wiffle ball and the perspective of wiffle ball stays with wiffle ball and of course like we're gonna try to fight for a call and everybody thinks they're right. And so once that's established, then you kind of come together. It's like, okay, like how do we get through this together and take deep breaths and like it'll be
Mm,
okay.
yeah.
Um, so I think any game and team, I appreciate right now just like each team's different personalities and the challenges that are associated with that. So as long as those games are just, with the perspective of wiffle ball and having fun and enjoying it, I think I don't know if there's like one team that I enjoy playing the most. But the Expos right now, we're in their division all the time. We've played them a bunch. It's fun to play them. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, looking at the schedule, when the schedule came out, what were your overall thoughts on your guys' schedule? Anything kind of stick out to you about a challenging period of time or something that, I don't know, just again sticks out in your mind?
I think the only thing that we noticed is and this is our own doing, is because we can't play on Friday, we're going to play 2 on Monday.
Yeah.
And so 4 games on Monday is a lot. I think each championship run, we've done 5
Mhm.
or 4. I think maybe we did 4. I don't know. Last year, 5, with the first game being at 6:50
Yeah.
in the morning with you guys,
It was pushed from the night before. Yeah.
to
That
then
was
do
fun.
a championship run, and our game ended at like 6:15. That was brutal. Like, that was a brutal, and each one of those games we played were either a contender, you guys were contending, the Marlins were in, the White Sox were in, the Twins were in, obviously, and then we played them in the playoffs and we beat the Orioles. So it was like all those. That was like a uh, death draw, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, I looked at Monday just to see, like, oh man, like, one, are we playing late on Saturday?
Yeah.
and, and then how many games do we have on Monday? So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's what I looked at the most. Other than that, like, each team is going to be difficult. Each game is going to be hard. So you just kind of take it as it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a good attitude to have. Let's go ahead and do some predictions. So, your division, who you taking? Who you think's going to win your division?
Yeah, I think, with all due respect to any other team in my division, I will choose us.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And then let me read the other divisions to you, and I want you to pick a winner from those two divisions. In the Cardinal Blinds division, you've got Twins, White Sox, Rockies.
I think so. I'll just say, yeah, the Twins, I think, are gonna just consistency.
Yeah.
Can't not choose against them.
Yeah. All right. And then the Corner Pub and Grill is the Orioles, Astros, A's.
Same division.
Yeah.
That posed some interesting things, but I think the Orioles proved a lot last year. They didn't really have anything to prove to begin with, but I'm not gonna not choose them. I think that division will be hard, but I don't think that it will be hard enough for them, and I think they will come out as the champion.
Okay. And then pick your two wild card teams.
I think the Marlins are definitely my first shoe in, um, and that creates a very big challenge for the next one. I really think it's. I mean, my first gut would say White Sox. They're adding a lot of different pieces, which I think could be helpful.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think that, man, it's just it's a hard. You got the Rockies, and
Yeah. And they're in that division too. So if they bounce
oh
back,
yeah, they are in that division.
that makes it even harder. And yeah.
Gosh, I think there's a lot of things. Here's the questions: can Cam Smith become Cam Smith of who everyone's waiting Cam Smith to be? If he does that, I think you guys are in a really good position, because I think uh, Jimmy Stout really came on strong last year.
Mhm.
The question with the A's is, will they find the A's lure of old and be excited to play wiffle ball? If they do, I think they're going to catch lightning. I think they can catch lightning in the bottle probably faster than most teams. Um, because I think they're definitely, like, high is high, but if they're low, they are really low.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm hoping it's the latter for them. It's more fun when they're having fun.
Hmm.
And I think the White Sox are just a force to be reckoned with. I think they can figure it out this year, then they're right there too. So, but that leads me to a decision, and I think I'll stay with the White Sox.
Okay. So the same playoff teams from last year.
I think so.
All
Yeah.
right. Cool. You heard it here first, guys. He'll either be right or wrong. So those are his options. Um, all right, cool. Well, we're gonna get into hard hitters real quick, a little rapid fire. Um, just some with the ball related, some not. So, what is the final record in season 21 for the Yankees?
You know, I'll say 5-5 or 6-4.
Man, It's probably that will probably be the lowest prediction for your team of out of if I were to ask everybody else.
Just
So
got to make the playoffs. That's all I want. And I don't want the wild card game because that would be 5 games.
yeah,
And I don't want that. So,
yeah. Well, he's humble, folks. He's humble. So who is the team MVP in season 21?
hmm, you know, as much as you would, here's a hot take. I would say as much as you would say Gus is team MVP, I think we don't make a run without Kevin and Sam. And so, Gus is just going to be Gus. He's like Steph Curry or Michael Jordan or whatever. It's like those guys are going to like get theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But you need Dennis Rodman and you need Scottie Pippen and you need like Dwayne Wade or Draymond or whatever. So I think like I would say like Kevin and Sam like will be the team MVPs for next year for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you could say like a team's only as good as their fourth hitter anyway. And you can even escalate that to 3 because the Marlins were great at 1 and 2, and then they kind of had a pretty big drop off 3 and 4. They still went pretty far with that, but if they really want to make a
Those
push,
guys though, I think they definitely stepped up. Like those guys, if I remember correctly, I don't think it's maybe a statistical drop off, but I think
yeah,
those I don't know the stats, but I think those guys can step up in moments.
yeah,
I think
well,
even in the game they came back against the White Sox, like everybody had to have a productive at bat, and I think everybody did.
yeah. I think I agree, and I think too. You think back like people like Egerstrom, right? Like when they went on their big run, he came up huge in huge moments.
Oh
If
man,
you look back at his stats that season, they could have been good, but I don't remember. But
yeah,
my guess is they weren't something that jumped off the page to you if you look at his stats. And obviously, we don't keep stats in the playoffs either. So it's a whole new ball game once you get to that point.
yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, um, you know, I don't know if I have a favorite, but Kevin was sitting here, he would say something different. Oh, I would say that like movies that I really enjoy that I've watched a lot, like Interstellar, um, Inception. My one that like I laugh about time is one of the like I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever
Mm-mm.
seen it?
No.
Let me just plan a date night for you,
All
Brian.
right.
You need to put the kids down or get a babysitter, make dinner, get a bottle of wine, whatever your drink of choice is, put on About Time. She'll like it because it's a rom com.
Okay.
You'll like it because there's like, a father son aspect to it. You both will probably cry at the end. And the movie is about time. So it'll make you like nostalgic. And yeah, so I
All
recommend
right.
anybody out there
I will check it out for sure.
should. About time. Rachel McAdams is in it,
Oh,
and I don't know what this other guy's famous for. Um, but anyway,
anyway. Well, yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. I've been needing to add some things to my watch list. So, who's going to lead the league in home runs in season 21?
hmm. I mean, you gotta throw Gus up there. He did it last year. It's hard not to say he won't do it again. He's always up there. I think Spencer's up there. Gosh, I don't know. Probably Spencer.
Okay. Who is the most, how do I want to phrase this? Which player doesn't get enough respect for the role they play on their team? Does that make sense? Sort of an unsung hero kind of idea?
Um, yeah. Gosh, you know what? I would say Blake. I would say Blake over the past few years has kind of like not gotten necessarily the respect he deserves. And last year kind of showed a lot of just like, man, like that was not a fun year, I don't think, for the Rockies.
Mm-mm.
But like when Blake steps to the plate, you're like, frick, like, you know, he's
Yeah.
got the batting gloves. I think he was the first to do that in our league, and
Yeah.
so he's got that like, stance, and he just swings like he's gonna swing out his arms, and uh, I think he's like doesn't get a lot of like airtime, like I don't think from podcasts or anything like that. But he's kept the Rockies together for so long, and they've had a lot of success. And yeah, I think he just kind of flies under the radar. So I would definitely say Blake for sure.
A good choice. Where's your favorite place to get breakfast during the weekend?
Oh, for a wiffle ball weekend?
Yeah.
Um, I'm not really like I don't trust my like stomach for breakfast that
Okay.
weekend. Like people that are coming in with like hot, greasy. That's you, but that's not me. I'll probably just have like a bar, or just super canola. But or after like my first like morning games, if someone brings the donuts or if there is a donut available, or like then or like you have to get through the first few games, and then after that you can get McDonald's. But I could never do like McDonald's then play. Oh my gosh. Or like any greasy nasty food. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Um, who's going to lead the league in strikeouts as a hitter in season 21?
Who did that last year? Do we
Pretty
know?
sure it was Jimmy
Jimmy.
Nelson.
Oh, you're meaning from a pitching standpoint.
No, I mean from a hitting standpoint. I'm pretty sure he struck out more than
Both
anybody else.
last year?
Yeah,
Jimmy. That's hilarious. Um, you know what? Probably Jimmy again. He probably did it 2 years ago too, didn't he?
probably. Yeah. All right. Um, what is the official drink of the Yankees?
Man, I mean, truthfully, oh, you know what? This is actually good. Tequila.
I was gonna say if you didn't
Because
bring
what we did
tequila,
last year,
yeah,
yes. The dog days of what was that, Saturday or Sunday?
I don't remember after I drank it, I can't remember what day it was.
That was that alone we should have won franchise of the year for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really special. Those are like the moments that make the weekend fun. I'm
Hmm.
not saying it because we did it, but there's other like spontaneous events that occur. Um, and that was just funny because Sam brought a bottle of tequila and we were in the shed and we all thought it was funny to take a shot. And then we started like chanting someone's name and then they came and took one. And then it was like really funny to like watch. Like everybody was trying to sit there and like not like act like their name was like they didn't want to like be like, oh, please call my name, but like they were doing that,
Yeah.
and so it was really funny. That was like a really funny and fun moment.
Yeah,
And
and those are going to be the memories, in 20 years that we have those moments.
yeah.
I just had Trent on for a podcast a few weeks ago, and he talked about when Jimmy Cole, made the tarp a slip and slide
Mm,
during that big rain delay, and like those moments that, like you said, the spontaneity and
yeah.
where it really unifies the league, even if it's not about wiffle ball, which in that moment it wasn't about wiffle ball, it was about just being
Yeah.
together. So yeah, I agree. All right, boys' night out. What's on your agenda?
Um,
You gonna watch About Time?
it's like I feel like that's for like the married guys. I will replicate what a few of us do pre um the night before Thanksgiving. We have a crew that goes out, a lot of the wiffle ball guys. So we just meet somewhere and then we just keep on going places until we can't go to any more places because it's too late. And then we go home. And it's
Sweet.
fun. Or yeah. I mean, I feel like if you say boys' night out, you have to at least have one bar that you go to. So
Mhm. Cool. All right, last question. Who wins the championship this year?
You know, I think I said this last year. I think I say this every year. I'm just not like I want it to be us, so I'm gonna choose us.
All right.
And I could be wrong, but I don't want to be wrong. So yeah.
We will see. I think you have a pretty good shot at it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Trying
so
to make what was it? This would be I think we were in it the past 3 or 4 years. And so
yeah,
trying to
you've won 2 and 4, and so you were in it the year before and lost.
yeah.
So for sure been in it 3 of 4 years.
So let's go 4 for 5. If we can just be in it, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
Just try. Then anything can happen.
yeah, yeah. It's a funny looking ball, as Chris Metter would say. So
It is. It's a weird ball.
yeah, so that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. We've got some more content coming to you before the season starts. We've got fantasy wiffle ball, power rankings, a season preview podcast, maybe a special guest or two if I can cram it in before we get there. So stay tuned. Tell a friend, be a friend. Let people know about the podcast so we can get the word out as we continue to try to just look to Memorial Day weekend in 2023 and season 21. So again, want to thank 1356 Public House for being our presenting sponsor this year. Also want to thank Ketting Ice Centers for being the division sponsor for the Yankees and the rest of the teams in that division. And lastly, just want to thank you, Scott. Thanks for jumping on and talking and catching up with me. It's been good to see you and just chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Benware. Likewise.
Yeah, buddy. All right. We will see you guys on the next episode. See ya.